Hello everybody! I'm the Godzilla Reader, and today we're going to do something different for a change. Let's talk about Dinosaur. You know, Dinosaur, that movie that Disney made back in May 19, 2000? Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that this movie is very underrated. But as someone who watched it as a kid, I still remember it, and, well, looking back, I think it's still a pretty good movie. Although, you may be asking, why am I talking about such an old movie? Oh, well, for so many reasons, but although there is one reason that basically explains why I'm talking about it now. Well, recently enough, Disney released a short film called Once Upon a Studio, basically an homage to all of the movies that they made and also Walt Disney. I saw it, and it was pretty good. Definitely one of the best things that Disney released, in terms of modern stuff, but we're not gonna talk about that. And what you're seeing right now is basically the ending of the short, where every single Disney character gather around for one picture. And honestly, this picture is so legendary. Although there is one thing that I believe most of us must have saw. Can you see what it is? You don't? Well, let me zoom it for you. That's right, Alidor and his lemur family are included in the picture, which is quite surprising when you think about it. You would expect a movie like this to be pretty much forgotten, and yet here they are, remembered by the people who are working right now on Disney, which is, still surprising. Also, from the looks of it, it seems that the models of Alidor and the lemurs are still pretty much intact, nevertheless. So yeah, after noticing that, it basically made me want to, well, rewatch Dinosaur and appreciate it once again. Although I'm not gonna do a review on the movie. I'm actually going to talk about a detail on the movie, which, in my opinion, is downright the most terrifying thing that you could literally, see as a child. Although this is coming from me, especially since, well, admittedly, I don't really have like a big memory of my childhood, but I know for a fact that this detail is the scariest, like literally the most terrifying thing that I saw. Now, it's possible that most of you have seen this video called Little Teaser for a Future Series. And basically the context is that, well, the video was basically teasing a series that, well, I'm actually doing right now, basically about characters that I want to talk about. And the character that was teased in that video was Fawful. Well, unfortunately, Fawful will have to wait his character analysis another time because, well, noticing that Halloween is actually coming, I've decided to talk about, well, something else. And of course, I'm still talking about the detail in the Dinosaur movie. So let's not waste any time and start talking about the detail of the movie. That detail alone is simply known as the Carnotaurus. Disney's Carnotaurus are the main antagonists of the movie. There are at least 2 or 3 individuals of the species. One that we see in the beginning, and 2 that are following the Earth throughout the rest of the movie. They would eventually encounter the protagonist, and the first encounter would have led to one of them being killed, although the other one survives. This leads to a final showdown with the last Carnotaurus against the protagonist and the herd, until it eventually meets its unfortunate demise. Now, since we follow the movie in the perspective of herbivores, it's pretty clear that to them it's best to avoid these creatures, since for them they are monsters, predators, a mouthful of teeth with a bad attitude. Yeah, it's pretty clear the Carnotaurus are definitely a vicious and ferocious creature to them. And it's not really hard to see, especially when you consider the fact how they attack and even kill. Although despite those facts, the Carnotauruses are only natural predator, and like most predator, they require meat to survive. And even though they have no dialogue, they're not really dumb. They're actually surprisingly intelligent. And the two Carnotauruses have a strong bond together. And it's not hard to see how the last one may have a grudge against Eldar after its mate or sibling died. I'm actually going to talk about it a bit later on the end of the video, in terms of the whole predator-villain stuff. Alright, we got the description of the table. Now let's talk about the details of their designs, and wow, let me tell you, the stuff that I literally just looked it up in terms of their designs, or stuff that I never even knew about. I'm not joking when I'm saying this. The details of their designs are literally stuff that I literally just know now recently, and I never even knew as a kid. So yeah. Now, the first thing to discuss in terms of the designs of these creatures are their size, and Jesus Christ, those things are way bigger than the actual Carnotaurus. Like, way bigger. In fact, if you come to say that these creatures are literally, in terms of their size, are on the same level as the Tyrannosaurus Rex, you're not wrong there. So, a little reminder for everyone, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is said to be around 13 and 50 feet tall and 40 and 50 feet in length, while the Carnotaurus is roughly about 9 and 10 feet tall and 26-29 feet long. So, in general, the Carnotaurus is way smaller than a T-Rex. However, Disney's version is no small predator. Try to guess how big the version of Disney is. 50 feet tall and measuring around 40 plus feet in length. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that I never even knew about it. Although, to be quite frankly fair, I don't even know how the hell I even missed it. Because in the movie, it's actually shown that the Carnotaurus is way bigger than any of the herbivores. And that's a pretty scary detail to think about. Like, a predator that will literally not only eat you, but they're bigger than you, so any chances of fighting back is useless. However, the size of these creatures is far from the only difference. In fact, Disney's Carnotaurus has a few features that make it different from the actual Carnotaurus, such as the snout, which is more prolonged and broader than the actual Carnotaurus, which is more bulldog. The legs seem to be a bit thick and long, designed for stalking and high-speed running. Even the arms are different, with Disney's version having slightly longer arm, and they look to be bent forward, while the actual arms of a Carnotaurus are bent backwards. Other than that, and I suppose the rate of scales that the creature has, this is perhaps the closest thing you can get to an accurate depiction of the actual animal. Although then again, I don't think this movie was meant for accuracy anyways. Alright, we went over the designs of these creatures. Now let's go over their history. Basically their appearance in the movie. Now for this section, I unfortunately will have to rely on using screenshots throughout the rest of this section. Now I'm gonna use a little bit of footage from the movie, but just to avoid any copyright issue thing that right now seems to be a big problem, I'm gonna have to be forced to rely on screenshots. So yeah. So in the beginning of the movie, we see one Carnotaurus hidden in the jungle, and stalking the herbivores until it gets discovered by a small dinosaur. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother with the names of the herbivores because they're freaking hard to say. Anyways, after being discovered by that small dinosaur, the Carnotaurus decides to just reveal himself and go for the hunt. At first, it seemed like the Carnotaurus was about to go for that young dinosaur, until it decides to go for a much more larger prey to devour. While this is happening, Aladar's biological mother tries to hide him along with his siblings, although that didn't do much as the Carnotaurus proceeds to squash them all except for Aladar. Then the Carnotaurus proceeds to chase one dinosaur who didn't seem fast enough to escape the grasp of this predator, and ends up getting caught and devoured. Now, later on, we mostly focus on Aladar and his lemur family, basically the story point perspective of the protagonist. However, they do bear witness to a meteor fall, and let's just say that this has some huge consequence for basically everyone. Natural habitats are destroyed, the environment is now even more harsher and harder to survive. Herbivores are now struggling to literally survive, as they are now forming a herd to find the nesting ground, and predators are also having a hard time surviving, as the animals that they hunt are practically disappearing. However, they're not completely lost, as they are aware that the herbivores are forming a herd and basically going through the desert looking for the nesting ground. And of course, a desert is obviously by far one of the worst places to be, especially if you want to survive. And unfortunately, some of the herbivores do not make it, leaving a good feast for the predators. And when talking about the predators, it's not just the raptors, but also the Carnotauruses, as we later see a pair of two scaring off a pack of raptors as they are seemingly following the herd. So later on in the movie, after some Aladar and herd adventure, especially with water, Bruton and another Iguanodon are searching for water. However, what they aren't aware is that they are literally finding themselves in a dangerous area. Because quietly hidden behind the rocks, the predators are stalking them. Bruton and the other Iguanodon seem to notice something, and, well, the next scene speaks for itself. Well, damn. That was some horror stuff right there. And you can even see, even though it happens so fast, you can still see that other Iguanodon get his flesh tear off by the Carnotaurus, which is pretty dark, even for a Disney movie. Right, let's move on before I gloss over this, frankly, amazing scene. Anyways, Bruton manages to escape his encounter with the Carnotaurus and warns Kron, who wakes up the herd to get moving. And after a little conflict between Aladar and Kron, Aladar and friends are eventually left out from the herd. However, they manage to find refuge inside of a cave. Bruton also joins them, as he is also left out from the herd, and obviously injured from his encounter with the Carnotaurus. And speaking of Carnotaurus, the two pairs are tracking the protagonist down and seem to notice that something is inside the cave. Aladar and Bruton are the first one to be aware of the presence of the Carnotaurus and proceed to wake everyone so that they could escape. Unfortunately, as they get moving, a rock is accidentally hit and falls on the ground, moving its way to the exit, where Aladar tries to stop it and gets right in front of the predator, which then leads to by far one of the most horrifying and scariest thing in a Disney movie. Now the situation has turned into a freaking chase, where the prey has to escape and the predator has to catch. And unfortunately, Aladar gets caught by the Carnotauruses. Although in the moment that he gets caught, both Carnotauruses proceed to literally bicker at each other at who will get the first bite, leaving the chance for Bruton to actually save Aladar and distract them while the others run away. Now the chase has turned into a battle for survival, as one of the Carnotauruses attempts to hit Bruton, but he uses his tail to end them, sending him crashing into some rocks. Then Bruton realizes that if he can cause a rock fall, he could perhaps kill them, and that's what he does, as he crashes into both Carnotauruses and into the rock, causing a huge rock fall, and actually managing to kill one of the Carnotauruses, but at the cost of his own life. And I say that one of the Carnotauruses is dead? Well, indeed, one of them is dead, but the other one survives. And it's clear that it will return for payback for killing its mate or sibling. So yeah, this won't be the last time we see them. And that last one won't be very happy. Okay, since the rest of the movie is basically the plot, I'm gonna do a little bit of a quick marathon just to, well, get over the Carnotaurus, since this video and the series alone is mostly about analyzing characters and not really reviewing the movie and all of that. So yeah, quick marathon up ahead. Aladar and friends find the nesting ground, however they realize that the path that the herd usually takes is now blocked by rocks. So now Aladar has to stop Kron from unintentionally killing the herd from a sheer drop. However, as he continues his path to look for the herd, he comes across the corpse of a dead dinosaur, which is unclear whether it was killed or just died from exhaustion. Whether it was one or the other, it doesn't change the fact that the last Carnotaurus shows up. And here we get another scene which, again, is straight out of a horror movie. Literally, Aladar is hiding from the predator, but the Carnotaurus seems to almost notice that he's here. Although I guess rather than check it out, the Carnotaurus decides to eat the corpse, most likely being hungry, which allows Aladar to escape. Unfortunately, the Carnotaurus will later get his scent, and later on follow him. Quick marathon up ahead. Aladar tries to reason with Kron in terms of another way to get to the nesting ground. Of course, Kron does not listen. They then proceed to fight until Nira had enough of her brother's BS and goes with Aladar to the other way around to the nesting ground. In your face, you stupid son of... Anyways, it seems that things are doing well. The herd will arrive to the nesting ground and won't have to worry about... Oh, right. Yeah. Maybe if Kron wasn't so stubborn, they would have wasted time, because the last Carnotaurus ends up arriving face to face with the herd. Now it's clear that the situation has become a lot worse, as the herd is now in danger of facing death against this deadly predator. Kron still tries to convince the herd to climb over the rocks so that they could escape the Carnotaurus. However, Aladar stops them, telling them that if they were to scatter, then the Carnotaurus will literally slaughter them all one by one. So the best solution to survive this confrontation is to stand together. And stand together they will, as the Carnotaurus later proceeds to charge towards them. It seems like this will be their last moment in this planet. However, Aladar is the first one to step in, as he lets out his bellowing sound and actually manages to stop the Carnotaurus, who perhaps sees this as a challenge. However, he isn't intimidated as he goes for the attack until he realizes that everyone actually fights back. That's right, the herd fights back, and this time they don't seem to be afraid of the larger predator. In this situation, size does not matter, especially when you are millions against one. Basically, if you want to see it in a real life way, imagine one single lion against a herd of buffaloes. Yeah, the lion is pretty much screwed. Anyways, the herd manages to escape the Carnotaurus and pretty much leave the predator salty about this embarrassing loss, until the Carnotaurus notices Kron trying to escape and basically looking like a fleeing prey. He decides to go after him. karma if you think about it. Nira and Aladar are heading to Kron's rescue, although that won't change a thing since the Carnotaurus is quite literally getting closer to him, and he panics as he ends up arriving on top of the rocks. However, he realizes that perhaps if he wasn't stubborn enough, he should have listened to Aladar, since the path that the herd usually takes isn't only blocked, but it also leads to a sheer drop. Yeah, karma even more. Now Kron is forced to fight for his life, as he uses his tail to hit the head of the Carnotaurus, which does seem to do some pretty good damage, and he tries it again. However, the predator stops him with his head, and then bites him on the back, and then later throws him, send him and crush him on a rock, real hard. The Carnotaurus then gets ready to maul him to death until Nira stops it. The Carnotaurus then proceeds to use its head to push Nira, and then puts its foot on her so that she won't stand up. Eldar strikes with a tail swipe, and the Carnotaurus retaliates with its own tail swipe. Eldar then tries to push the predator off the edge, but he wasn't strong enough to do it. The Carnotaurus then gets ready to attack. However, it seems that its weight quite literally betrayed it, as the edge proceeds to crumble and it slips. The Carnotaurus then tries to get a hold of Eldar so that it doesn't fall, but unfortunately, it does. The only thing that remains of this super predator, it's now is lifeless, dead corpse. And thus we arrive at the end of the history of Disney's Carnotaurus. Whew, well, that was a long one. I suppose the best way to end this right now is to go with the conclusion. So my thoughts on these deadly predators? Well, they're scary as hell. Disney's Carnotaurus are perhaps one of the best villainous predators out there in media. Now granted, the Carnotaurus falls in that category of a villainous predator where they basically don't talk and have no dialogue whatsoever. And well, aside from the Carnotaurus, there is also the leopard in the Disney Tarzan movie, where he does not talk at all. And well, I can see why this can be a bit of a problem for some people and even confusing, even though the Dinosaur movie is literally a movie about dinosaurs and not people. In my opinion, I think the idea of basically the predators mostly being depicted as vicious monsters. Especially, it makes sense, especially when you consider the fact that in this movie we are mostly in the perspective of herbivores. So naturally they will see the predators as literal danger. And in terms of the presentation of the Carnotaurus, damn, it was very scary. And even till this day, I still think the Carnotaurus, Disney's Carnotaurus, is quite terrifying. I guess the best way to explain in what way the Carnotaurus is, well, terrifying, I'm gonna use a clip from one episode of the Wildcrats, which basically gives a simple answer to the question.
It is pretty cool though, being tracked by the pack. Yeah, it definitely shows how quiet wolves can be, and how scary it would be if we really were raccoons.
There you go. It's basically the fear of how it would be if you were the prey. And quite frankly, I would have died already. And speaking of the whole villainous predator, I think it's about time that I talk about this little fact. Now, as we all are aware, Disney's Carnotaurus are portrayed as the antagonist in the movie. However, the question is, are they really that antagonistic? Once again, the best way to answer this is to use another clip from another episode of the Wildcrats, which again answers the question pretty much well.
So remember, every animal has to eat to survive. And in nature, some animals just fill the role of predator. It doesn't mean they're bad.
And that's pretty much that. In fact, if you think about it, calling the Carnotauruses evil or even villains simply because they want to eat and survive is quite inaccurate if you think about it. Especially when it comes of natural predators who, well, do require meat to survive since they're carnivores. And that's just how nature works. It always has. Also, the Carnotauruses, along with the other animals such as the raptors, the herbivores who form the herd, and even Aldar and his lemur family are practically victims, since the meteor literally made life even harder for everyone. And it seems that for the Carnotaurus, it got even hard, since I feel like these two individuals are most likely the last of their kinds, meaning that they are unfortunately now extinct. And besides, if Death cannot be considered a villain or even an antagonist just because he was doing his job, even though part of the reason he wants to kill Puss is also personal, and Miguel O'Hara, who oddly enough can be considered an antagonist, even though I don't really see how, which I guess has to do with this whole belief in how the whole multiverse works, since there are some flaws in his what he tries to explain. Maybe that's the fact, but I don't know. If anyone knows as to why Miguel is considered an antagonist, then leave them in the comments. Right, anyways, if one can be considered an antagonist but the other cannot be considered an antagonist for some specific reasons, then I believe that the Carnotaurus should not be considered an antagonist or even a villain. After all, the need to survive because you're a predator is not really a bad thing. And just like that, we've reached the end of the video. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this new series, which I hope I get to continue if I have time. And well, the next character to get his, analysis will this time be Fawful. For sure, this time. I'm not going to do any changes like I did right now. The next character to get his analysis is Fawful. So yeah, hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys in another video. And happy Halloween to all of you! And well, if you're going trick-or-treat, I should perhaps give you a little warning when you do that. Be careful to where you're walking. Maybe you don't know, but hidden in that area is a stealthy predator. Perhaps he wouldn't dare to eat a human, but if he was starving, he would most likely take the chances, as you are the prey. Hello again, it's me, the Godzilla Reader. I hope you enjoy watching this beginning of a new series, which I hope I get the chance to continue. I mean, I'm sure I will, it's just a question of time. So I'm leaving a little message in terms of the series for you guys. So basically, the characters which I talk about and analyze are characters from any sort of media, whether they're movies, series, games, or even a random stuff out of the internet. That's what I talk about. And by any chance, do you guys have a character that you want me to talk about? Leave it in the comments. That's all I have to say. I'm the Godzilla Reader, and I'll see you guys another time. Bye bye!